All right, welcome back, everyone. Let's get right into this explainer for Class 6. Up until now, we've really been deep in the trenches, right? Crunching numbers, collecting data, mapping out environmental impacts. But today we're shifting gears. We are focusing entirely on translation. We're going to take all those complex integrated results and transform them into actionable circular economy and industrial symbiosis decisions. This is where the magic happens. It's where theory meets the real world and where you finally step into the role of a true sustainability advisor.
Because think about it, you've spent hours running these assessments. You finally have this massive spreadsheet sitting in front of you, packed with impact categories, cost analyses, and social indicators. You have the data. Now what? Well, here is a hard truth about the professional world. Raw numbers do not make decisions. People do. If you just hand a CEO a giant spreadsheet, absolutely nothing changes. Managers, policymakers, and stakeholders need clear direction, not just a pile of data. Your job today is to bridge that exact gap.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for getting from data to action today. First, a quick welcome. Second, we'll cover the theory of interpretation. Third, we've got Activity 1 on finding hotspots. Then Activity 2, testing assumptions. And finally, Activity 3, the brief.
All right, Part 1. Welcome to Class 6, From Data to Action.
First off, I really want to acknowledge the tremendous hard work you've put in to reach this point. You've hit those technical learning outcomes, and now we shift entirely to the power of translation. Just a quick housekeeping note before we get into the heavy lifting though. Please make sure you've tackled the required readings, the Klopfer and Grawl chapters and the Dottie et al. Paper. I know, thrilling bedtime reading, but absolutely essential. Also, keep your Class 6 student worksheet handy, because that is your primary roadmap for today. Okay, moving on to Part 2, the theory of interpretation, or unlocking the meaning. Let's start with the foundation. Interpretation isn't just staring at a graph and, guessing. It's a highly disciplined process. We have to ask what is actually driving the results, how robust they are, and what they imply for the real world. And that brings us to a concept that will literally save you hours of analysis, the hotspot. A hotspot is just the specific lifecycle stage manufacturing process or raw material that is disproportionately driving your impact result. If a product has a massive carbon footprint, the hotspot tells you exactly where that carbon is coming from. It's step one for knowing exactly where to focus your intervention. But as you've probably guessed, the real world is rarely that simple. As an analyst, you are constantly going to hit agonizing trade-offs. You might find an option that beautifully lowers climate impact, but drastically spikes the financial cost, literally like balancing a green plant against heavy coins on a scale. Or maybe you design a system with brilliant circularity, but it requires way more transport, which means burning a lot more diesel. Understanding those tensions and communicating them clearly is what separates a good analyst from a truly great one. And speaking of the real world, we absolutely have to talk about uncertainty. What is it? It's simply the lack of certainty due to data limits, the assumptions you had to make along the way, or just natural variability in the system. Guys, every single sustainability assessment has uncertainty. It is totally unavoidable. The key here is brutal honesty. You have to rigorously evaluate and acknowledge your data limits before you ever hand a briefing document to a decision maker. Pretending your data is perfect is a recipe for disaster.
So, how do we actually handle that uncertainty? We use a sensitivity analysis. Think of this as your ultimate analytical weapon. It is the process of testing how your final results shift when you change your key assumptions. It's essentially a stress test. For instance, if you assumed a product lasts 5 years, what happens to your environmental impact if it actually only lasts 2? Does your recommended action change? If your conclusion holds up, even when those assumptions shift, you know you've got a rock-solid case.
All right, Part 3, Activity 1, finding hotspots. Let's get into what you'll actually be doing in the workshop. Here is a sneak peek at the simplified result table you'll be reviewing. It compares 3 different product options across multiple categories: climate impact, financial cost, and social concern. Your job is to play detective. You need to scan this data and identify the absolute largest contributors in each and every one of those columns. And here is your exact workflow for Activity 1. Step 1, thoroughly review that result table. Step 2, trace the hotspot right back to its source. Don't just tell me manufacturing is high. Trace it back to the specific inventory flow or the underlying assumption that caused it. And finally, Step 3, create a consolidated hotspot table. This is your required output, and it must clearly link every major result to its root cause.
Moving right along to part 4, activity 2, testing assumptions. Once you know exactly where your impacts are coming from, you have to test how fragile those numbers are. During this activity, you'll be manipulating several key variables, things like reuse cycles, transport distance, substitution ratios, the local electricity mix, recycling rates, and product lifetime. I want you to really push the boundaries here. Ask yourselves, what happens to our brilliant circularity plan if the transport distance suddenly doubles because a local supplier goes out of business?
And this brings up a massively high-stakes question for circular economy and industrial symbiosis decisions. Do your proposed resource exchanges actually replace virgin production, or are they just adding an extra processing step? Think about it. If you recycle a material, but the energy and transport required to recycle it creates more emissions than just making it from scratch, you haven't solved the problem, right? You've actually made it worse. This is exactly why these sensitivity checks are vital. Your steps for activity 2 are simple, but they require some really deep critical thinking. Step 1, take your model and change just one assumption. Step 2, discuss with your group if your preferred option is still the best choice, or if that single change flipped the result entirely. Step 3, write a short scenario note. This is your required evidence. You need to explain the assumption you tweaked, the new result, and, most importantly, what it implies for your final decision. And this brilliantly illustrates why we need part 5. Activity 3, the final boss, the brief. This is the culmination of all your technical prep work. A sustainability brief is a concise communication of your findings and recommendations, completely custom-tailored for decision makers. This is not an academic paper. It is the exact, precise, punchy format you will use in your careers to talk to upper management, partner companies, or policy actors. It is a highly strategic document designed to drive immediate action. To conquer this final boss, here is your workflow. Step 1, synthesize all your hotspot and sensitivity findings. Step 2, clearly identify your target decision maker. Are you talking to a CFO who only cares about cost, or a sustainability director focused entirely on carbon? Step 3, prepare a one-page brief. And yes, I mean literally one single page. The real challenge here is condensing complex, nuanced findings onto a single persuasive sheet of paper. So, the crucial point is that your brief must hit specific marks to be effective. Here is your mandatory checklist. You need to clearly state the core decision question. Declare a preferred option, provide your supporting evidence for that option, honestly outline the trade-offs involved, state your data limitations, and finally, give a concrete, recommended next action. If you're missing even one of these elements, your recommendation is incomplete. So, we've covered the theory, we've mapped out the hotspots, we've pressure tested the assumptions, and we've outlined the perfect executive brief. You now know exactly how to transform abstract data into powerful, real-world strategy. The tools are right there in your hands, and the workshop awaits. So I have one final question to leave you with before you start. Are you ready to advise the decision makers? Let's get to work. All right.